Hong Kong solves everyday problems with speed, precision, and a level of urban engineering that feels unfair once you've lived with it. Systems are instant, payments are invisible, and the city removes frictions you didn't realize were frictions until they disappear. These are the 15 Hong Kong ideas that make daily life run impossibly smooth. 1. Octopus Card, instant, universal, zero friction payments. Most cities treat contactless payment as a convenience. Hong Kong treats it as infrastructure. The Octopus Card started as a transit tool, then evolved into a citywide micro-payment system that erases dozens of tiny delays. You tap into the MTR, onto a bus, at a convenience store, at a supermarket, and at a vending machine without ever slowing down. There's no PIN, no signature, no pause, and no moment where the system thinks before approving. The tap authorizes the payment, and the authorization is instantaneous. That speed reshapes behavior. Queues dissolve before they form because every transaction takes a fraction of a second. Visitors notice the smoothness immediately. Residents forget it's remarkable. Octopus works in schools, offices, parking meters, canteens, elevators, and residential estates, turning the city into a single interoperable payment environment. It isn't a wallet, a debit card, or an app. It's a friction removal mechanism disguised as a piece of plastic. Hong Kong didn't just accelerate payment, it built a system where paying barely registers as an action. 2. MTR trains that arrive so frequently you don't check timetables. Most metro systems demand planning. Hong Kong's MTR removes the need entirely. Trains arrive every few minutes on most lines, with peak hour intervals so tight the platform countdown barely finishes before the next set of doors slides open. Timetables stop mattering because the system is built for continuous flow, not scheduled precision. Platform doors align with train doors to prevent crowd surges, and station layouts use wide corridors, clear sightlines, and escalators positioned to keep movement uninterrupted. Even the chimes, signage, and floor markings are tuned to convert hesitation into instinct. You step off, you step on, and the train departs. Missing one isn't a setback, it's irrelevant. The next is already visible in the tunnel. Commuters move with the confidence of people who know the system won't falter. The MTR doesn't just run often, it runs with a consistency that makes waiting feel like a relic from another city. 3. Airport Express check-in at the train station. Air travel usually begins with a chore. You haul luggage across a city, queue at a counter, and only then enter the airport system. Hong Kong deletes that entire front half. The Airport Express lets you check in at the station hours before you reach the terminal. You roll your suitcase into Hong Kong Station or Kowloon Station, place it on the belt, scan your passport, and receive your boarding pass immediately. Your luggage enters the airline network there and doesn't reappear until you land. The effect is structural. You board the Airport Express with nothing to drag, nothing to manage, and nothing competing for attention. The train is fast, predictable, and designed around luggage, turning the trip into a clean handoff instead of a logistical gauntlet. The service works with most major airlines, so the convenience isn't a niche perk, it's the city's default. Hong Kong didn't just streamline airport access, it built a workflow where the airport effectively begins downtown and the most tedious part of flying disappears long before you see the runway. 4. Minibus route displays that show real-time speed and location. Most small bus systems run on trust. You board, hope the driver sticks to the route, and hope the speed limit isn't treated as optional. Hong Kong removes that uncertainty by putting the entire journey on display. Every green minibus shows real-time speed, current location, upcoming stops, and route progress on a bright digital panel visible to everyone on board. The interface is simple, public, and impossible to ignore. If the driver exceeds the limit, the number turns red. If the route shifts, the map reveals it instantly. Passengers don't guess what's happening, and they watch it unfold. The screen acts as a quiet regulator, keeping drivers accountable without confrontation and giving riders situational awareness on routes that traditionally offered none. The result is a mode of transport that feels transparent in a category usually defined by opacity. You know where you are, how fast you're moving, and how long until you're stopped with a clarity most cities reserve for their largest transit systems. Hong Kong didn't just update minibuses. It built a visibility layer that turns a once unpredictable ride into one of the most dependable parts of the commute. 5. Chaan Teng efficiency systems. Most restaurants operate on hospitality. Hong Kong's Chaan Tengs operate on throughput. These diners were built for a city that moves quickly, eats quickly, and refuses to waste a minute of the working day. Menus are standardized, dishes are pre-staged, and the ordering process is engineered to turn decisions into reflex. You sit, you order, and the kitchen starts cooking before the waiter has fully stepped away. Food arrives within minutes because the workflow resembles an assembly line more than a traditional dining room. Milk tea brews in continuous cycles, toast is produced in batches, and staples like macaroni soup or baked pork chop rice follow a choreography refined over decades. Even the seating reflects the logic. Table sharing isn't about crowding, but about keeping turnover high and dead space low. The result is a meal that feels impossibly fast without feeling frantic. You enter hungry, finish in under 15 minutes, and receive the bill the moment you signal you're done. Hong Kong didn't just create a cuisine. It built a dining format where efficiency functions as a core ingredient. 6. Estate-level amenities built directly into public housing. Most cities treat public housing as a roof and little else. Hong Kong treats it as a full operating system. Residential estates come with clinics, markets, sports courts, libraries, schools, playgrounds, and transit links built directly into the development's footprint. You step outside your building and the infrastructure of daily life is already in reach. There's no cross-town trip for groceries, no half-day lost to a doctor's appointment, and no commute required just to access basic services. The design is deliberate. Hong Kong's density demands efficiency, so the city embeds amenities into the architecture instead of scattering them across distant districts. Walkways connect blocks, shopping arcades sit beneath towers, and bus stops and MTR stations are positioned to eliminate dead time between home and destination. The result is urban living where convenience isn't a perk, it's structural. Residents move through their routines with minimal friction because the estate absorbs the logistical load. Hong Kong didn't just build housing. It engineered self-contained micro-cities that solve problems before residents even encounter them. 7. Contactless parking meters. That remove the worst part of driving. Parking meters in most cities feel like a punishment. They want coins you don't carry, apps you don't want, and QR codes that fail at the worst moment. Hong Kong removes the entire category of friction by rebuilding the meter around one rule. Payment should take seconds, not minutes. Modern meters accept Octopus instantly, show remaining time clearly, and sync with enforcement systems in real time. You tap once, the display updates, and the transaction finishes before your hand leaves the card. There's no login, no account setup, no app store detour, and no guessing which zone you're standing in. The meter tells you everything, and the tap completes the rest. Even topping up is effortless. You walk past, tap again, and continue without slowing down. The result is a system that treats parking as a micro-interaction instead of a chore. Drivers don't queue, enforcement doesn't guess, and the city avoids hardware that wastes everyone's time. Hong Kong didn't just modernize parking, it built a process where the most irritating part of driving barely registers as an action. 8. Wet markets with centralized butchery and waste systems. Wet markets in most cities run on atmosphere rather than engineering. Hong Kong's run on infrastructure. They look chaotic at first glance, but beneath the noise is a system built to keep freshness high, contamination low, and foot traffic moving. Stalls sit along centralized drainage channels that pull runoff away instantly, instead of letting it pool underfoot. Floors are washed throughout the day, not just at closing. Temperature-controlled counters keep meat and seafood cold even in summer, and butchery zones maintain strict separation between raw and ready-to-cook products. Vendors follow standardized waste disposal cycles, with collection teams removing scraps before they accumulate. Ventilation pulls humid air upward instead of letting it hang at eye level. Even the layout is intentional. Narrow aisles push movement in one direction, preventing stagnation and keeping airflow consistent. The result is a market that feels alive without feeling unhygienic. You get the immediacy of fresh produce and the efficiency of a system that quietly prevents the problems most wet markets accept as inevitable. Hong Kong didn't sanitize the wet market out of existence. It engineered a version that works at scale every single day. 9. Double-decker trams that move more people using less road. Most cities respond to congestion by adding lanes. Hong Kong responded by adding height. Its double-decker trams run on a single dedicated track, moving thousands of passengers per hour while occupying less road space than a row of parked cars. They operate on fixed intervals, predictable routes, and a fare so low it feels symbolic. You board, climb the narrow staircase, and watch the city pass at a pace that feels intentional rather than slow. The system works because it was built for density, not speed. Trams glide through some of the busiest streets on Earth without fighting for lane priority or negotiating signals designed for cars. Electric motors keep noise low, tracks keep movement consistent, and the vertical design doubles capacity without expanding the footprint. The result is transit that feels nostalgic and ruthlessly efficient at the same time. It absorbs crowds without creating congestion, offers a stable alternative to buses, and maintains a reliability cars can't match in a city this dense. Hong Kong didn't preserve the tram as a heritage piece. It engineered it into a mass transport tool that still outperforms newer systems today. 10. 24-hour convenience stores that function as micro-infrastructure. Convenience stores in most cities sell snacks. Hong Kong's convenience stores run the city. They function as decentralized infrastructure nodes that stay open when everything else closes and absorb tasks that would normally require separate buildings, separate systems, and separate trips. You can top up your Octopus, pay bills, buy SIM cards, collect parcels, grab a hot meal, replace a dead charger, and pick up household essentials at 3 in the morning without stepping into a supermarket or a bank. The layout is built for speed. Items sit within instinctive reach, counters are shaped for rapid turnover, and staff process transactions in seconds. Even the hot food follows a system. Buns, siu-mai, fish balls, and tea eggs rotate continuously so nothing loses freshness. The result is a city where "I'll handle it tomorrow" becomes "I'll handle it now." Errands that would consume an afternoon elsewhere become micro-interactions folded into the walk home. Hong Kong didn't just build convenience stores. It built a 24-hour support network that absorbs the city's logistical overflow and keeps daily life moving without interruption. 11. Estate footbridges and elevated walkways that remove street-level congestion. Most cities force pedestrians to negotiate traffic. Hong Kong lifts them above it. Entire districts are linked by elevated walkways, footbridges, mall corridors, and sky-level passages that let you cross neighborhoods without touching a single road. Step onto the network and the city reorganizes itself around uninterrupted human flow. Cars stay below, people move above. The separation is simple, but the effect is enormous. The walkways connect office towers, transit stations, shopping centers, residential blocks, and public plazas into a continuous system that functions like a second city stacked on top of the first. Escalators feed into bridges, bridges feed into atriums, and atriums feed into MTR entrances with a spatial logic that feels engineered rather than improvised. Even the signage is tuned for momentum. Arrows, colors, and floor indicators guide you through the network without hesitation. The result is a pedestrian experience that feels frictionless in a place that should be overwhelming. Movement stays quick, safe, and predictable even during peak hours. Rain doesn't slow you. Traffic doesn't touch you. Hong Kong didn't just build footbridges, it built an elevated mobility system that absorbs crowds, protects pedestrians, and frees the ground level for vehicles that actually need it. 12. Hyper-efficient dim sum ordering systems. Dim sum in most cities is theatrical. Hong Kong's dim sum is operational. The system is built around speed, consistency, and continuous movement, with workflows that resemble industrial logistics more than restaurant service. You sit, receive a color-coded order sheet, and mark your choices in seconds. The sheet goes straight to the kitchen, where steaming cycles run on tight intervals and carts move according to a choreography refined over decades. Dishes don't wait for diners. Diners wait for dishes that appear exactly when the cycle dictates. Har Gao, Siu Mai, Chung Fun, and Char Siu Bao emerge in waves, each batch timed to preserve temperature, texture, and throughput. Staff communicate through hand signals, coded shouts, and pre-assigned zones that prevent collisions in a space that should be chaotic but never is. Even table turnover follows the system. Plates disappear instantly, tea is refilled without prompting, and the bill arrives the moment you indicate you're finished. The experience feels fast without feeling pressured because the workflow absorbs the load instead of the customer. Hong Kong didn't just perfect dim sum, it engineered a culinary system where tradition and efficiency operate at the same speed. 13. Public transport fare capping and automatic discounts. Most transit systems reward the city, not the rider. You tap, you travel, and you hope you didn't spend more than necessary. Hong Kong reverses that logic. The system tracks your spending across buses, trams, ferries, and the MTR, then automatically caps your weekly total so you never exceed a fixed limit. There's no application, no registration, and no need to monitor your usage. The system handles the accounting. Every tap counts toward the cap, and once you reach it, the rest of your rides feel free even though the network is simply absorbing the cost. It's a quiet form of financial protection built into the infrastructure, not a promotion or loyalty scheme. The city takes on the calculation so the rider doesn't have to. The result is transit without budgeting anxiety or fair table math. You travel as much as you need and the system ensures you never overspend. Hong Kong didn't just make transit affordable, it built a safeguard that turns public transport into a predictable capped utility rather than a variable daily expense. 14. Estate playgrounds and sports courts built into every neighborhood. Most cities treat playgrounds and sports courts as optional extras. Hong Kong treats them as baseline infrastructure. Public housing estates are designed with basketball courts, football pitches, playgrounds, fitness stations, and open recreational decks built directly into the architecture. These aren't decorative additions. They're structural components, planned from the earliest design stages and maintained with the same seriousness as elevators or fire exits. The logic is straightforward. In a dense city, outdoor space must be engineered, not wished for. Courts sit between towers to maximize airflow, playgrounds are positioned for visibility and safety, and rubberized surfaces reduce injuries in areas where children play daily. Even the equipment is standardized, so repairs can be done quickly without custom parts. The result is a city where physical activity isn't a luxury or a commute away. It's downstairs, open, and constantly in use. Elderly residents exercise in the mornings, children take over in the afternoons, and teenagers claim the courts at night. The spaces never sit empty because they were designed for continuous turnover. Hong Kong didn't just build recreational areas, it engineered a social infrastructure that keeps communities active, visible, and connected in one of the densest environments on Earth. 15. Public seating, shade, and rest areas, treated as core infrastructure. Most cities treat public seating as an afterthought. Hong Kong treats it as load-bearing infrastructure. Benches, shaded rest areas, covered walkways, and wine-tested canopies appear exactly where the city knows people will need them. Outside transit hubs, along elevated walkways, beside playgrounds, under footbridges, and in the gaps between residential towers. These aren't decorative touches, they're engineered responses to heat, humidity, and density. Shade structures are angled to block afternoon sun, seating is positioned to maintain airflow between towers, materials are chosen to stay cool in summer, and layouts are planned to prevent bottlenecks in high-traffic zones. The city understands that rest is part of mobility, so it builds micro-rest points into the urban fabric the same way it builds stairs, ramps, and escalators. The result is a pedestrian environment that feels humane in a place that should feel exhausting. Elderly residents can pause without leaving the flow of movement, parents can rest while watching their children, and office workers can sit for a moment before rejoining the commute. Hong Kong didn't just add benches. It engineered a distributed network of recovery points that keeps the city walkable, breathable, and survivable in a climate that punishes anyone who stands still for too long. Hong Kong's genius is simple. Eliminate delays, automate the boring parts, and let the city do the work. These 15 ideas aren't conveniences. They're the infrastructure of a place built for momentum. Once you've lived with them, you notice every inefficiency everywhere else.